So I'm Franco the Speedy Marrufo, and this is our first attempt at making a movie. I have taken for today some Grey Knights. I haven't played Grey Knights in 6th edition, so I thought that'd be the ideal army to play test for a video. BJ's taken his tournament Tau, which is obviously another ideal army to play test for a video. I've got Courtiers, because why not? An Inquisitor with a side cannon and Terminator armour, because everybody loves Twin Link. I got 2 units of Strike Marines with double side cannon and Cybo ammo. I got 1 unit of 5 Strike Marines because I'd love to take henchmen, but our guest doesn't have any henchmen to use. I got 3 Dread Knights because I lack imagination, and they've all pretty much got a heavy incinerator, except one's got a heavy side cannon because I had some points left over. I've got a couple of Razorbacks, which I'm not sure why I took. Pretty much just took them for move and cover, and I thought, why not spend an extra like 10-20 points on them? And that's pretty much my army.
So I'm playing against Franco the Speedy Marrufo. For myself, I was taking my tournament army, my 1850 tournament army, and I just obviously reduced it for this battle a little bit to make it 1650. I've got a Tau commander, and he's kitted out with all the usual sort of enhancement stuff, all the cool stuff. So he sits at the front of my fast attack unit, which is 4 marker drones. And he's also got a drone controller and 2 marker drones. Basically, he keeps them nice and safe. I've also got an ethereal, and then for the troops, I've got two units of Fire Warriors. One's 12 man, one's 11 man with a Devilfish, with a Disruption Pod. 2 units of 10 crew that have sniper rifles, and then a unit of 18 crew with sniper rifles and 1 hound. My elites, I've got 2 Riptides. One has a SMS, and the other one has a Twin Link Fusion Blaster. The SMS guy has early warning override. The Fusion Blaster has early warning override to give him intercept, and he's got Skyfire. My heavy support, I've got 1 Skyray and 3 broadsides with Pale missile pods and 6 missile drones.
So the mission we're playing is Crusades, as far as I remember. It's going to be 5 objectives. They're all pretty much centre aligned. The statue is 1 objective, and the casino chips are the other 4. And the deployment is Dawn of War. So this is my deployment. I've stuck the Dread Knights in the middle of the boards because I've got first turn and I want to zip toward the Tau line for immediate death and destruction on my part. I've stuck the Grey Knight squads on either side, and they're going to sort of shamble forward as best they can, hopefully get any range at some point, but if not, they're going to crowd around the objectives and try not to die. The 5 Strike Marines that I've got are in reserve, and they will deep strike down at some point, and the 2 Razorbacks are pretty much mobile cover bases.
What I've decided to do is kind of, he's deployed fairly central, I've got second turn, so I've kind of gone for a denied flank tactic, gone for the corner, and the idea being there that he doesn't have too many of my troops that he can come on and burn with his incinerators. Most of them are in reserve, and if he does come, I'm going to have to try and deal with those 3 monstrous creatures in 1 turn. Problem is, I don't know when he's going to decide to use that shunt move. Okay, so I've tried to seize initiative, hoping that I can get some broadsides and some Riptide fire into him from long range. Unfortunately, I rolled a 1, so I used all my bad luck.
So turn 1. Obviously, I want my Dread Knights to die as quickly as possible, so I've rammed them down BJ's throat as close as I could get them, and I've killed. I mean, I looked at his army and assessed what was the most powerful thing, and I thought, they're real powerful, so I tried to kill as many of them as possible. And then I pretty much shambled forward with my other 2 strike squads and moved one of my Razorbacks into a covering position, knowing of course that nothing's ever going to shoot the Razorback because he's got 3 Dread Knights in front of him. What idiot would shoot a Razorback with 3 Dread Knights in front of him?
I have had some pretty good luck, to be honest. My broadsides have managed to deal with 1, which was in area terrain. I chose that one with the broadsides because I didn't want him to get cover against stuff that had an AP value, so therefore I shot him with the broadsides and tried to make him fail the 2+ save, which I did. And then I managed to get 2, again I was a bit lucky with the Skyray because I actually got hit with both marker lights. What I then did was use the Riptide to benefit from those marker lights, and he also Nova charged with his Fusion Blaster to fire 2 Twin Link Fusion Blasters. So that's 2 Twin Link Fusion Blasters and 3 Strength 7 AP2 Iron Cannon shots that are now hitting on 2s. And fortunately I managed to hit with all of them and wound, and I managed to finish off the Riptide, aided by the crew who also took 1 wound off it. Sorry, not the Riptide, the Dread Knight. That's my army. Why am I killing my own army? What's going on? Finally, obviously that left him with 1 Dread Knight, and what I had done as a kind of safety measure at the start of my turn, I had overcharged my other Riptide and boosted him up to a 3+ invulnerable save. And knowing that I could then charge his Dread Knight, still a very, very risky option. If I fail one of those wounds, force weapons, he manages to instant kill my Riptide and I'm dead. But hey, that's the best I can do. I've got 3 Dread Knights down my front. So I managed to go in, and fortunately, the 2 wounds that he caused, I did pass both of them. To be honest, I have to say to Franco, fair play. If he'd done this 4 games out of 5, I think he'd have come through. And the problem I'd then been facing is he would have gone into my entire army. He would have killed both my HQ units, and it could have been pretty much game over. So far, I'm still in the game after turn 1. It's all good.
Okay, so my turn 2. So my relentless advance towards the Tau gun line continues. Really, it's about putting as many targets in BG's face as possible. Unfortunately, I'm playing Grey Knights, so as many targets as possible as I outnumber, no greater than 3. My 5-man strike squad came down, so I deep struck him as far away as possible from those scary Riptides because I know intercept is not my friend. And I am waiting, of course, for his Fire Warriors and Crook to show up and show them how shooting is done. My 2 10-man squads, they advanced further forwards. They weren't going to get really any kind of effective shooting this turn, so they pretty much just advanced and ran and tried to get into some kind of protective cover. The Dread Knight continued to try and punch the Riptide in the face, and the Riptide continued to laugh in the face of the Dread Knight, which is 3 up invulnerable. But I expect his luck is due to change, and that's my turn 2.
Beginning of turn 2, obviously we've still got the dramatic combat going on in the middle of the game between the Riptide and his final Dread Knight. Now, I was kind of hoping that my Riptide would have died in his turn, because that would have meant his Dread Knight is now wide open in front of my army and I can shoot to death. Unfortunately, I passed all 3 invulnerable saves, so coming to my turn, I used the positional relay that was on my Riptide, and I made sure I brought some Crouton so that I can now block off the gap that was previously there for his Dread Knight to get through and assault on my juicy stuff. Now I had some decisions to make really going into this turn, and the main thing was that all my reserves came on. So do I bring them on where I've castled and continue my refused flank and benefit from the general's leadership, or do I come on the right flank? Franco had obviously already made an early move for the objectives, knowing that the sort of killy fight wasn't going his way. So I thought I need to go and counter there actually. So I brought a Kroot squad on that flank. I also brought my Devilfish and Fire Warriors on, and another Fire Warrior squad to fire at long range. And that was enough to basically deal with the 5-man squad. Now the main action in this turn for me was about the big, huge strike squad with the Inquisitor in Terminator armor in the centre, and I put loads of, I think it was two Mark Lights to ignore cover and 2 Mark Lights to increase the BS of my Riptide. Passed the OV test, but unfortunately I scattered 12 inches off the mark and completely missed, so it was a massive waste of Mark Lights. Fortunately, the broadsides kind of came to my rescue and killed 8 of the strike squad. So all in all, still a pretty good turn, and turn 3, got a Dread Knight to deal with. We'll see how it goes.
Okay, so my turn 3. Basically the big game plan of try and kill the broadsides so I at least have something left at the end of the game isn't going well. I've managed to smash this Riptide finally to pieces, but he's now sitting in front of the entire Tau army, and he can shoot some stuff and then charge, or just charge, but either way he's going to die this turn or the next. And then I've got Cotiez's squad, which will be the only squad left really by the end of this turn more than likely. So I'm at the end of turn 3, which is not where I want to be at this point. I really want to be at the end of turn 4 or turn 5 with not much left. If the Dread Knight manages to get his charge off somehow, or manage to make some of his troops run, that it's going to swing the game a wee bit. But really it's the broadsides, they are the key unit at this point, because they're the ones with the smart missiles, they're the ones that can get angles on my guys no matter where I am, and they're the ones that can kill off my troops.
As Franco was kind of saying, I think he had a plan there with the Dread Knight, but when he actually charged, I got incredibly lucky. I think I got 3 6s with my marker drones that were in support fire role, and that meant that the broadsides could obviously also support fire and have +3 ballistic skill. That was enough really to just kind of wipe out the Dreadnought, and it didn't even make it in combat recruit. So, I mean, I guess now the main major threats are sort of out of the way, and for me it was like mopping up duty. I'm trying to get angles. I picked off a razorback with the broadsides, and I'm now starting to move on to the objectives. The crew are moving and running, and basically what I'm really doing now is kind of enveloping him. Franco's cleverly used terrain to sort of hide his general and his final true choice, but really it's a matter of time, and hopefully if I can get the angle this turn, I can take the game.
Okay, so it's my turn 4, and it's all about survival for the Grey Knights. They have been whittled down from very few men to almost no men, and from a couple of monstrous creatures to no monstrous creatures. I got myself a Razorback, which is deadly as we all know, especially when it shoots. So I decided to tank shot with it. There's some crew that are just in range for it, you know, and they're out of range of the ethereal. So obviously the mistake of the game by BJ, which means he loses all 3 crew and a vital objective that, you know, could cost him the game at this point. I form a nice little triangle behind a building in Operation Wet Your Pants with my Grey Knight Strike Squad and Cotias, just so that when he does land a blast on me next turn, he can kill everybody with just 1 shot. And pretty much the rest of it is, there is no rest of it, and that is my turn 4.
In this turn really, as we said, it's just mopping up duty now for me. I'm just trying to get angles. I actually use the Ethereal's Zephyr of Grace ability, and that's a really underused thing with the town, because what that allows the broadsides to do is to move, and then run, and then benefit from any marker lights to bring their snap firing down, so that I think I've got 2 marker lights, so I got to hit on 4. And that basically was all I needed. Unleashed the broadsides on his last strike squad, and pretty much left him with sort of a couple of guys left. And the rest of my army managed to get angles and pick that unit off. And by the end of the 4th turn, the only thing he had left was a Razorback, so we called it there. Okay, dude. Cheers for the game. Thank you.
Cheers.
Good game. Drink some whiskey. Okay, so obviously it didn't work out too well for you, Nick. So what would you do?
It's not that it didn't work out too well for me in the end. It didn't work out too well for me in the beginning.
Okay.
The thing is, I mean, the choice was limited, but mainly by my laziness when it comes up to making a list on the spot and the sort of the available models. So the thing is,
it was a pretty good list though, to be honest.
Well,
I was quite scared.
it's okay. The 3 Dread Knights is okay, but it's a lot of points to put in 3 guys with essentially 12 going between them. And you know, you can get a bit of sort of scariness in the first turn, but then you need to balance that out by, you know, increasing your model count through the rest of your army, and you don't do that by taking nothing but strike marines. I was hoping to throw the Dread Knights in your face, you know, nice and quick. Hopefully, 2 of them I was hoping for 2 of them to survive. You know, by the skin of their teeth at the end of your first turn of shooting, then chuck them in combat, kill just enough to whittle your firepower down, so that my strikes squads could survive the rest of the game. Because I knew they weren't going to make an impact offensively. You know, they could not survive in front of the town gun line, so they had to stick either in cover or out of the line of sight. You know, in sort of near objectives, and the near objectives was basically near the centre, because that's where all objectives were based.
And you did deploy them quite well. And obviously we had the 4+ cover save in the middle as well, so that's pretty well.
Yeah, that's it.
Plan, really.
That's it. You know, really, it was a matter. I mean, if I could have killed the marker drones, I would have went for them right away. But they were, you know, you position them at the back, so there was no option for that. You know, and I was a wee bit unlucky with the combat against the Riptide not busting through him quick.
That was massive, wasn't it? So
yeah, if I'd busted through
3 or 2, 3
up vulnerables, that's right. You got the 3 up vulnerable off, you know, and then you pass your 2 3 up vulnerables. You know that.
If I fail one of them,
if I fail any one of those rogues, yeah, exactly.
Kill my Ethereal as well.
Yeah, then you run all these, and I'm in your backfield now. I'm going to your broadsides next. You know, even the fact that your broadsides aren't as effective without the marker drones, they might not even kill. They might not even kill that Dread Knight on their own. You know, without that. So what about you? Do you think you played it okay, or would you have changed what you did?
I think it was a really unnerving game for me actually, because I play a lot of games in my town, but I've not really, if I'm honest, played against Dread Knights too much, and I've not played against that style of army. And I quickly realised, I was like, oh my god, he's got this 13-inch shun, then 12-inch torrent, and all the strength 6 AP4 flamers. All my troops are just going to get fried. And of course, if he fires on my troops, which are usually like screens in that case, you then can assault and willy-nilly take out my good stuff. So I think my tactics were alright. I mean, I'm not sure if it's the best optimal thing, but I tried to sort of castle. I tried to keep a lot of the killable stuff in reserve to see how the kind of battle panned out. That was risky because that meant that you did come with a turn 1 shunt, and I thought, well, if I made a mistake here, am I going to have enough firepower to bear? And honestly, I don't really think I did have enough firepower to kill 3, but I think I got a bit lucky at key points. So is there anything you'd recommend for Grey Knight players, or is there anything you'd have done differently going up against Tower with the Grey Knights?
Well, I mean,
it's just the dice.
I think no, it's not just the dice. You know, not just the dice, but I mean, I think what you're going to need is model count, and then you need to play super defensive. You know, like, and I should really know this. You know, like, but again, bleeding, so I can be bored taking anything on 3 Dread Knights, because that was like, it's great. That's half my choices taken. Now, what else can I take to get through this army list? If I'd taken more models, just more models. And had a bit of threat, you know, and then just being defensive as best I could, then I could have survived, you know, and like really all that kind of stuff, you know. And it's not about like killing the Tau, because you know, it's not about being offensive in the face of the Tau. You can't do that. It's about surviving with that kind of army against the Tau.
Unit of my game, I think it was. I think, to be honest, I think it was the broadsides. If I was trying to think about what actually did the damage, I mean, the broadsides killed the Dread Knight turn 1, then they killed a massive 10-man squad, then another 10-man squad. So
killed the Dread Knight when it charged.
It killed the Dread Knight when it charged, yeah, definitely the broadsides.
Yeah.
And that's the weird thing with the broadsides. I do have some games where they don't do much, but like you said, the army that you had, it wasn't that kind of army. The broadsides were always going to be effective. It wasn't an army like a guard or IG army where you can sit back, ignore the broadside, stay out of range. You couldn't do that.
You had range on me.
I had range on you, so you had to come. You did what you could. You were a bit unlucky with the dice, but ultimately the broadsides did what they were there to do, and